The people who stood close to you yesterday have each found a reason to be slightly farther away. Tested across 15 societies with no shared language or history. Shame tracked social devaluation almost perfectly. Every time. Everywhere. So did ancient humans feel shame? Or were they built for it? You're probably thinking shame is a cultural product. Something taught, something that varies by society, something modern. That framing is wrong in the most precise way possible. In 2016, Dr. Daniel Sznycer at the University of California, Santa Barbara, working with John Tooby and Leda Cosmides, published a study in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences testing shame responses across the United States, Israel, and the Shuar people of Ecuador, a hunter-horticulturalist society in the Amazon whose cultural context differs substantially from either Western population. The finding: in all three groups, the intensity of shame people felt for a given act tracked almost perfectly with how much their community would devalue a person who committed it. The researchers concluded that shame is a neurocomputational program, a specific biological architecture selected during human evolution, whose function is to run an internal simulation of social devaluation before the person acts. In human terms, shame is not the emotion you feel after doing something wrong. It is the prediction your nervous system runs before you act, calculating the social cost in advance, then generating pain sufficient to stop you. The system evolved because not feeling it was lethal, and the math it runs has not changed in 300,000 years. Voluntary confession wasn't a moral practice. It was a reputational repair tool, the lowest cost path back from a norm violation in a group where behavioral history was stored in 30 memories simultaneously. Research by Sznycer, Schneider, Tooby, and Cosmides in Evolution and Human Behavior 2015 confirmed that voluntarily disclosing a violation reduced the audience's devaluation response more than the same information delivered through gossip, because it signaled the confessor's shame system was functional. This wasn't just honesty. It was a recovery mechanism with measurable survival returns. Blushing wasn't an embarrassing malfunction. It was an honest signal. Involuntary vasodilation in the facial capillaries, controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, impossible to suppress, and specifically calibrated to social evaluation contexts. Evolutionary psychologist Mark Leary at Duke University documented in 2011 that blushing reliably increases observers' forgiveness responses. The counterintuitive detail: blushing intensifies precisely when concealment is most desired, which is the design, not the failure. Its credibility depended on being uncontrollable. The gossip network wasn't idle talk. It was shame enforcement infrastructure, a distributed behavioral database in which any norm violation propagated through the entire group's awareness within hours. This wasn't just social behavior. It was the information environment that made the shame system's anticipatory function necessary. In a group where nothing remained private and every observer's opinion had direct survival consequences, a nervous system that ran the social cost calculation before acting was the only system that reliably stayed in the group. You took more than your share last night. Not much more. Just enough. The fire is burning this morning and nobody is looking at you directly. The space around you has changed, not by distance, but by quality. The people who were beside you yesterday are beside you still, but something in the geometry has shifted. Your chest is tight in a way that has nothing to do with temperature. Your nervous system is already running the calculation. The shame system does not wait for explicit rejection. It detects the early signals of devaluation and begins generating pain before the social cost fully materializes. This is the design. The pain arrives early enough to motivate correction. The correction is still available. The account can still be repaired. You could confess. In the forager environment, voluntary disclosure before the information spread through gossip channels was the most efficient available mechanism. It signaled a functioning shame system. It allowed the group to update their assessment of you as someone who self-corrects, and it prevented the secondary distortions that gossip added to the original violation. The confession felt maximally costly. It was actually the cheapest path. Or you say nothing. The information spreads anyway. More slowly, with more distortion, arriving to each person through the report of someone else rather than from you directly. The devaluation happens regardless. The repair opportunity narrows with each hour. The tight feeling in your chest is not guilt. Guilt says what I did was wrong. This says something about what I am, about what the group now knows about what I am. The distinction matters neurologically. Shame targets the self that others evaluate, not the act that was committed. A wrong act can be corrected. A wrong self is harder to repair. The fire smells of ash and cold fat. The group is moving. You move with them, and the tightness stays. The first break came with urbanization, roughly 10,000 years ago. The shame system was calibrated for 20 to 150 known individuals, a closed group where information spread completely and immediately, where every observer's opinion had direct survival consequences, and where reputational repair through behavioral correction was available because the same people who witnessed the violation also witnessed the correction. In a city of thousands, the information environment fractured. Violations observed by strangers carried no lasting reputational consequence. The strangers would not be encountered again. The social repair mechanisms that made shame functional, the apology to specific known individuals, the visible behavioral change observed over time, had no obvious target. The second break was digital. Social media from approximately 2004 onward inverted every parameter of the ancient shame environment. Audiences became anonymous, behavioral history became permanently archived, and reputational repair through behavioral change became structurally impossible because the original violation remained accessible regardless of anything done afterward. The specific capability lost was the functional link between shame and repair. In the ancient environment, shame fires, behavior corrects, group observes correction, account restores. In the digital environment, shame fires at full intensity, correction has no audience. The archive does not update. What clinical psychologists now call toxic shame, shame without corrective function, is the ancient system running in an environment it was never designed for. We kept the pain. We lost the cure. You feel shame in front of strangers who will never know your name. They felt it in front of every person who had ever shared a fire with them. You confess to an algorithm. They confess to the people whose opinion determined whether they ate tomorrow. You carry the record of something you did years ago, permanently archived, unreachable by correction. They carried shame that hurt precisely because it could be resolved, and it hurt less once it was. Shame evolved as a system with a beginning, a middle, and an end. We kept the beginning. We lost the rest. This video is intended for educational and documentary purposes only. All references are drawn from peer-reviewed evolutionary psychology and anthropological research.